So I want to talk a little bit and kind of segue into this mastermind business
Sure.
model and what you're doing with the mastermind playbook, because to me, it's a very, very interesting business model and something that I wasn't personally familiar with a few years ago. So tell me, when someone is thinking about starting a mastermind, how can they make sure that they get the plane off the launch pad
Mm.
in the correct way so that it's destined for greatness as opposed to destined for failure?
Yeah, great question. Well, let me tell you how it came about, first of all. As I said, I've been in a mastermind group every week for the past 2 decades, and it has radically transformed the way I do things. And so, about 10 years ago, when I was 50, I retired for the third and final time. I said, I'm done. And my wife said I've retired more than the law allows, but I did. I retired. And then the guys in the mastermind, Dan Miller and Dave Ramsey and some of those guys, they said, "What are you going to do now?" And I said, "Nothing." And I've told this story a million times. I said, "I'm going to go down to the Caribbean, to St. John, and I'm going to buy a place and I'm going to rock myself into an oblivion." And Dan Miller said, "That's the most selfish thing I've ever heard you say."
Hmm.
And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You've been married over 3 decades at that time." He said, "You've had over 12 successful companies." He said, "You need to encourage and coach others." I said, "I'm not interested. I don't want to do that. I'm tired. I've been working since I was 8 years old and I'm 50 and I'm ready to retire." And Dan said, "Well, you're just saying, hey, I've got enough for me. Good luck to the rest of you." And I
Hmm.
said, "That's not what I mean at all." So Dave Ramsey said, "Hey, come do Entree Leadership as a guest of mine." And I thought, well, that's cool. That's a $10,000 gift. I'll go try it out. So I did. And Mark, I loved it. So Dan invited me to the sanctuary in Franklin. He said, "Let's do Innovate," which is a coaching program. Well, I live in Nashville as well. And I was headed home that night and he texted me and he said, "Big A," he said, "Did you see the way the people in the room were leaning in when you were talking?" And I said, "Well, maybe I'm just a good storyteller." And he said, "No," he said, "You've got experience and you've got something to say personally and professionally." He said, "I really want to encourage you to coach." So I
Hmm.
prayed about it. I'm Christian by faith. And so I prayed about it. And Robin and I talked about it. And I decided to do that. So a guy in Stephenville, Texas, and a guy in Tulsa, Oklahoma hired me to be their coach, at which that was 7 years ago. And I still coach every week today. I started doing podcast interviews, and all of a sudden, John Lee Dumas had me on, and I had 15 one-on-one clients overnight. And I said, "Man, I can't scale that." I said, "I need to create a mastermind," and I did. And I said, "I'll only do one or two mastermind groups." Kept doing podcast interviews, and here we are today. 19 mastermind groups. We're in 9 different countries, and so thought leaders started calling me saying, "How are you scaling these masterminds?" And I started telling them a little bit in principle how I was doing that. And one of them called from Dubai and he said, "What would you charge me to take me on as a one on one coach and train me to do what you're doing?" I said, "I really don't want to do that." I said, "It'll take too much time and I really don't want to do it." He said, "If I could persuade you financially, would you do it?" And I said, I really don't want to do it." And he said, "What is your price?" And I wanted to get rid of him. So I threw a price out there and he said, "Where do I send the money?" And I
Wow.
went, "Seriously?" And he said, "Yeah." So then I did. And he launched. And so another guy, same way, called me and I threw out a price and he took it. So my daughter, Brooke, she's the chief operating officer of our company. She walked in my office one day and she said, "Dad, these people are paying you ridiculous amounts of money to coach them. Why don't we create a playbook?" I said, "I don't want to do that." I said, "It'll take too much time, too much energy, and we've created all these systems and processes to run our business. I really don't want to do that." And at the time, we had about 15 groups. And she said, "We've already got all the systems in place, all the processes are in place." So I agreed to it, and it took us 18 months. And I hired a product developer, copywriter, editor, a videographer, hired a team of people, and we spent a lot of money putting this together. And it took us 18 months. And so we literally put it in an 11-step program. There's over 100 worksheets, templates, and tools, swap files. There's lead magnets that are white labeled. Uh, 35 professional videos, and we put it together and we launched. And Mark, I can't even begin to tell you the success that people are having with this program, because I want to help everybody understand how you can launch something that you can make money while you're away. Coaching is good, and I do coaching too, but coaching is not a business. Coaching is a high paying job. And one day you're going to want to sell your practice and there's going to be nothing there because you've been exchanging your time for money. So as I'm conveying this to other podcast hosts and coaches and thought leaders from around the world, they said, "Hey, you're right. I need to build a sustainable business." And so we've created a business that people can hire facilitators. They can do revenue share with facilitators. I don't even go to over half of our groups, but I've created the framework, the themes, the accountability tools, the books, the questions, the thought leaders, the interviews, the expert interviews. I've created all this and I've taught people how to create the model. And so today, or 2 weeks ago, I left to go on a 2-week vacation with my wife to celebrate our 40th anniversary. When I came back, I had applications to join our mastermind group and I had more money in the bank than when I left. That's a business.
Right.
If it had been coaching, I would have had to dismiss all my clients. I would have lost that revenue because I'm exchanging time for money. And when I came back, the vacation would have cost me twice as much, not half as much, because I would have lost the revenue from the coaching clients along with going on vacation. Instead, I came back to more money. That is a business. And plus, it's going to be something I can sell. One day, I'll mentor someone to take my place, and then they'll come in. There'll be a succession plan, there'll be a transition. The groups are still meeting independently, the revenue keeps going. And so we've created something in 7 years that's a 7-figure business now, rather than it just being a one-off trading time for money. So it's becoming very popular with a lot of people as I've built this model.
Well, I absolutely love the idea because, like you said, you can't multiply yourself. You can't scale yourself because there's only one you. There's only one Aaron Walker in this case. There's only one
Right.
you. But if you can build systems, and this is something that has really been the common denominator when I speak to successful entrepreneurs, is systems. They put systems in
Yeah.
place and then they train leaders. They
Yeah.
create leaders, and that's it's an amazing skill